Hi everybody and welcome to your TorFX market update. I'm Nathan Bray. I'll be your host. Well, there were huge amounts of volatility seen in the market, so we're going to be breaking down all those moves. We'll be having a look at the flash crash, of course, on the pound, the bizarre move to the downside in a couple of minutes with the gold price, and of course the poor news that came out on world markets from the IMF. But first of all, let's break down Friday night's US jobs report.
Well, the US jobs report certainly did disappoint on Friday night, with the unemployment rate ticking up to 5%. Only 156,000 jobs were created compared to the 175,000 that was expected, so it came in under expectation. But as we break down the report according to the household survey, you find the devil is always in the details, and the US lost 5,000 full-time jobs and gained, get this, 430,000 part-time jobs. So the number of people having multiple jobs has skyrocketed. So far this year, the jobs growth has averaged 178,000 per month, compared to 2015, where they were averaging 229,000 jobs per month. So last year we saw one rate hike. You would say, based on these figures, that the chances of a rate hike in November and of course December have diminished substantially. And if we look at the labour participation rate, we find out that there's still 94,184,000 people not participating in the workforce. Now let's move across to the IMF. They came out with some disturbing global news, saying that they've raised concerns over a ballooning global debt that has reached 225% of world GDP, which could lead to another financial crisis, of course, according to the IMF. And we also saw some huge amounts of volatility in the global markets last week. First of all, let's have a look at gold. This is very interesting. Here is a story out of Zero Hedge where someone dumped over $2 billion worth of gold in under a minute. I mean, why not take 5 minutes and get a better price if you're a seller? Or why not take 5 days and get a much better price? Why would you need to dump $2 billion worth of gold in 1 minute? The other question I've got is, who actually has $2 billion worth of gold? Or is this just a case, as many are suggesting, of market manipulation? The other thing to consider as well is gold now has about hundreds of contracts per bar of gold. So what we're seeing here is just huge amounts of paper being dumped. But the big story for the week was volatility on the pound. We saw a complete pound crash at one point. And the question is, why did the sterling plunge 6% in 2 minutes? Well, some are blaming fat fingers, some are blaming stops going off at a major level, and some are suggesting, of course, that this could be politics being played out, because a few minutes before we saw this pound crash, and remember, this flash crash occurred when the majority of the global markets were shut. We were just getting to the point where Asia was open, and of course China was on holidays. But it all came just after Francois Hollande came out saying that Britain must suffer the consequences of a Brexit. And let's face it, so far we haven't really seen any major fallouts in Britain after they decided to leave the Eurozone. The other speculation you could point to is the US election. And both the gold being dumped and, of course, the pound being dumped in a flash crash certainly makes the US look more appealing. And we are heading into the second debate about to start here in just a couple of hours in the US. And I know that Hillary Clinton, who's heavily backed by Wall Street and the large banks around the globe, she's pitching that there's nothing wrong with the US economy, as opposed to a counterpart, Donald Trump, who's suggesting that we need to make America great again. Well, regardless of what it is, I expect we're going to see far more volatility in the future. So to finish off, let's take a look at that flash crash as it occurred on the pound against the US dollar. You can see here, this is a 1 minute chart, so each bar here represents 1 minute. As we move across minute by minute, you can see that things were trading fairly normally, and then all of a sudden a huge move down began, and it was pretty much all over within a couple of minutes. And there's that flash crash, and of course we saw the market then trade all the way back up for the rest of the day. So very strange circumstances indeed.
Well, that's all from me. I look forward to seeing you all next time. This is Nathan Bray for TorFX.